California's Communities is supported by the California Redevelopment Association Foundation, a statewide organization made up of cities, counties, nonprofits, and private businesses sharing a common goal of bringing renewed life to neighborhoods and downtowns by expanding local businesses, creating jobs, building affordable housing, restoring buildings, and improving public facilities and infrastructure. Redevelopment, building better communities throughout California.
You know, California is filled with cities, large and small. And each one of these cities, these communities we call home, has its own unique look and feel to it. Sometimes they look the way they do because of their history from their earliest days when they were founded. Some look the way they do because of modern architecture and brand new buildings. And many times they look the way they do because of a combination of factors, including history and planning. Okay, our adventure begins. We have come to another one of California's communities. This time we're in Clovis, California, here in the San Joaquin Valley. Actually, Clovis, a community of about 96,000 people, is now kind of grown together with the city of Fresno, but Mike, Clovis still has a very distinct and a very unique, and Clovis citizens are very proud of their town, even though it's part of a larger metropolitan area, aren't they?
That's correct, Yul. It's a way of life.
Okay, your name is?
I'm Mike Dozier. I'm the Community and Economic Development Director with the City of Clovis.
Okay, the City of Clovis, and I got to tell you, we're in downtown Clovis. You corrected me. We're in
Old Town Clovis.
Old Town Clovis, and there's a whole story behind Old Town and why it looks the way it does today. But I've learned over the years that when you pull in a town, the first place you should visit, if you see it, and there it is right over there, is the local museum. And there on the front, it says Museum Clovis Big Dry Creek. What's that all about? I've never heard of Big Dry Creek.
Big Dry Creek is a creek that brought water into this area and irrigation into this area, and it's one of the reasons why Clovis is here.
Okay, so that's why it's on the front of the museum.
That's correct.
But we're gonna leave this area out here, and boy, is this the center? Is this the epicenter right here?
This is the epicenter of Old Town. This is the corner of 4th and Pulaski.
That manhole right there.
That manhole right there.
All right, we're about as close as we can get. We're now going to go in the museum, find out a little bit of local history, and then we're going to tour this area right here. Okay, we're now inside the museum. Lynn is the docent of the day. Give us a wave, Lynn. And look at the museum over here. Boy, it is filled full of historical artifact. And here to tell us all about it, your name, sir, is?
John McCorney.
Okay, now we can't go through the whole museum, but this caught my eye as soon as I walked in the door. Wheat King. Are you the Wheat King?
Not me, but Clovis Cole. He had approximately 50,000 acres of wheat here in this area. And the Clovis is named after Clovis.
Wait a minute. You're going too fast for me. Clovis Cole, back in what era are we talking about?
Oh, we're talking about the early 1900s.
Okay, and he had a lot of wheat
He
here.
had a lot of wheat. He had 50,000 acres.
That's why they called him the Wheat King.
That's correct.
And he's the guy for whom Clovis, California is named, but his last name was Cole. Why isn't this place named Cole, California?
The way that came about, it was already another coal in California, and they didn't want two coals in California, so they had Clovis.
So they used his first name.
That's correct.
Wow. Well, this is do people know this story, or is this one of those obscure Clovis stories?
The people that come to the museum know this story.
Well, yeah, that's what greets them when they walk in the door.
Mm-hmm.
And this was hardcore wheat country at one time.
All dry farming.
Okay, we're moving on. We have left the museum. We have now walked about a block, and Mike, at first glance, this looks like an old building. It looks to me like an old train station, but I'm looking over your shoulder and it says, what is that, Tarpey?
Tarpey Depot. Yes, it is an old train station. It was originally located in an unincorporated area just south of Clovis called Tarpey Village. It was later in 60s moved out to West Fresno, about 30 miles from here, and it sat in an old museum yard, more than for a better term. And at that point, we brought it back here in 98.
So wait a minute. This little train station has been moved 3 times.
3 times.
From Tarpey to Fresno to Clovis.
Exactly.
And now it's here sitting right on this corner. It's the Tourist Information and Visitor Center. I'm a visitor. I want some tourist information. So we're going to go inside. Come on, Mike. Okay, we're inside the Visitor Center, and are you waiting on a train?
Sure am. And it's been delayed.
It has been delayed. This is a beautiful setup in here, and look at this. This is a picture of the old Tarpey train depot.
This is true. At that time, it was not used for a train depot, possibly for a real estate office or a CPA firm. It's had so many different names.
Well, it's had so many different locations over the years.
True.
And do people come in here and are they immediately drawn to this picture? Because boy, it certainly dominates this little room.
They certainly are, and you would be amazed at the number of people that say, I remember him, referring to the gentleman in the picture.
You mean this guy right here?
This guy right here.
People recognize that fellow.
Well, they say they do.
Now, people are in here, they come in here to get information. What kind of information?
What's happening in Clovis? What can I see while I'm here? They really like the antique stores, so get a lot of
Well,
those.
they probably like the old town feel of Clovis,
That's
don't
true. Very true.
they? And what goes on down here? We just pulled into town.
Well, we just finished pole vaulting championship.
Wait a minute. What?
National pole vaulting championship in
Is
Old
in
Town
Clovis?
Yes, it is.
Old Town Clovis.
Old Town Clovis during the farmers market.
Wow, so you have a farmer's market, a regular event.
Yes.
And then you have special events, lots of things going on downtown, in Old Town.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Always lots of things going on downtown.
Including the National Pole Vaulting Championship,
This is true.
which makes perfect sense to hold in Clovis, right?
Well, it does to me.
Here's a fellow over here. You're the city planner.
Yes.
And this is your pride and joy here.
This was my project about 10 years ago when we moved this thing over from the Kearney Park in Fresno, and it's really been a major community project, not only in fundraising, but also people volunteering time to reconstruct this thing here.
So you mean the citizens of Clovis themselves were part of the restoration of this old train station?
Absolutely. There were really hundreds of volunteers that came forward, either providing money or providing work and putting this thing back together. And I think if you see some of the original photos of when it got here, it was really surprising it ever made the trip back over to the site.
Why bring this old train station from another town here and plop it down on this corner in Clovis?
Well, it originally came from the Clovis area. It was stored over at the historic mansion in Fresno, and it really needed to come home. There are a lot of people that wanted to see it come back. It's probably the smallest Victorian structure in the state of California. We don't know that for sure. But it's a very unique and pretty structure. We needed something to really anchor downtown, and that's why it came back here.
Yeah, and it kind of represents what Old Town has become, what it stands for, doesn't it?
It really is the figurehead of what Old Town is now. I think everyone recognizes the Tarpey Depot as kind of the center of Old Town and really kind of getting back to the authenticity of really what downtown is.
Now it gets interesting because we have come across the street. This caught my eye right here. And this sculpture has a real story behind it, doesn't it?
It does, Hugh. We have a art on the Old Town Trail. This is one of the 3 pieces that sits out here right now. And this is an original piece that commemorates the Pendergrass family doctors. There were 3 or 4 of them that pretty much delivered every baby in Clovis up to about 1940. And we decided it was probably appropriate to commemorate a piece to the walking doctor.
The walking doctor?
The walking doctor that would come to your house and visit you.
Wow.
that actually made house visits, if you could recall that.
Yeah, those were the good old days.
Those were the good old days.
Now, the walking doctor is standing right here at the beginning of what looks to me like, where does this go, Mike?
This goes all the way to Fresno. It's about a 13-mile trail. This used to be the rail line through town. It was it meets up with the Sugar Pine Trail. This is the Old Town Trail.
Wow, so if we started off right here and had plenty of water and some good walking shoes, we could go all the way to Fresno down this, I guess it's a walking and a bike path, right?
That's correct.
And what makes this very interesting as a city planner, walk over here, fellas, because I saw something kind of off in the distance here that gives an indication of what this whole area used to look like. And there it is, right over there. I've seen the pictures. What used to be here?
Well, in this location, you had the railroad track that went down through here, and then this is pretty much the way it's always been, or at least in my recollection, and I think anyone in the recent past's recollection.
This looks like it's always looked.
Right.
But right over here, where we've come from, where Tarpey Station is, the visitor center, and all of those beautiful buildings around there, that's all new.
That's all new. There's 5 acres. We purchased that from the railroad back in 1995. It was pretty much the way you're looking at it right here. We built the hotel, brought the hotel in, built office, about 28,000 square feet of office, and then the Tarpey Depot, and put in a public parking lot.
Wow, so a lot, as a city planner, there was a lot going on here in the last 10 years.
There's been a lot going on here in the last 10 years, and I think the project that we see across the street was really important. We wanted to bring downtown across Clovis Avenue and expand the area on essentially what was a brownfield, what was an old railroad yard. And so what you see here is 10 years of work. It seems like it takes a long time, but sometimes you could stand back and go, it's really working, and people are enjoying it, and now downtown is expanded into an area that it really hadn't been there previously.
So you've expanded Old Town, downtown, into a whole new area now.
Absolutely. And there's a connection now that sits, I mean, this is all Old Town now. And
so you made this Old Town too.
This is what we consider Old Town North.
Wow, I like this though, and I like this path that goes, how many different, if you did want to go this way, what if I wanted to go in the other direction?
If you want to go to the south, it will go another 3 or 4 miles down to Tarpey Village, where we talked about what Tarpey Station used to be.
And this whole trail system is called?
It's called the Old Town Trail.
The Old Town Trail. Now it's time for a great story about the reason why downtowns, old towns, all over California look the way they do. Because Clovis doesn't look this way by accident, does it, Dwight?
No, it doesn't, Huel. This was a lot of work. Downtown has really been through a couple iterations. In the late 70s, we tried to brand it with a sort of a Western motif.
Now, what do you mean, brand it with a Western motif?
Well,
you decided you wanted to take it back to the Old West.
Clovis is known as a Western town. As a matter of fact, we have the rodeo grounds here, right down here. And I think there was a thinking that we ought to turn the downtown into kind of an Old West sort of town.
But that didn't work, did it?
And it didn't work. Yeah, we tried it for a few years. That was in the late 70s. And I think we began to realize that authenticity is really what people wanted. And we realized that we had a lot of neat buildings underneath a lot of these old Western facades.
So you tore down the Western facades that you had put up in the 70s and discovered what? And why are we standing right here?
Well, we owned this building. The redevelopment agency bought this building as part of the redevelopment project. And we thought we're going to do a test example and teach ourselves how to restore a building. And so we took the old storefront off. We tried to find historically what was underneath there. We took about 14 layers of paint off the front of this building.
Right off the front of this building. So it didn't look anything like this when you started.
You would not have recognized this building back then.
Stuccoed and plywooded?
It was painted over in awful colors. You couldn't see the brick underneath there. And so we thought we needed to get in there and set an example of what you as a shop person downtown could do with your building.
So you decided to go from the Western look to how would you describe the look today? Because these buildings are just spectacular, and a lot of them are very historic as well.
I think a lot of people think of this as a turn-of-the-century architecture, but in reality, it's getting back to the basic architecture that's underneath here. A lot of these buildings were built at the turn of the century up through the 1920s, and we felt rather than try to create a Disney type of effect, we really wanted to recreate what the buildings were, or restore what the buildings were.
So you went with the look that these buildings had when they were originally built, whenever that was.
That's right. And it actually made it very easy because you didn't have to redesign the building. All you had to do was be respectful of the architecture that was sitting underneath it.
Wow, and this works.
We think it does. It took off. I think a lot of the shops people and shop owners downtown realized the jewels that they had as far as buildings, got excited about now doing facade work with them. We work with those individuals, and this is the result.
Bringing back these small businesses, these individual buildings back to their original glory and to their original luster.
That's correct. And it's very honest. It really is what the downtown is. It's not something that you want it to look like. It's the basic architecture that downtown was built with.
But you fooled me, because I was commenting on the beauty of this old restored building here. What did you tell me?
This is a brand new building. It's the Blair Church and Flynn Engineering Building, built in downtown about 3 years ago. And being that there was no structure there, we tried to harmonize with some of the historic architecture across the street, and this is the result.
So the new buildings are blending in with the older part of town so that there's a continuity here.
That's correct. And one of our objectives was to try to bring downtown across Clovis Avenue. This is a very wide street that runs through town. We thought there were some real design issues in doing that.
So you brought the old town over here. Look at this. This is all new.
This is all new.
Beautiful. That's not new.
Nope. That sign goes back probably to the 30s or the 40s.
It's been hanging right there all these years.
It's been hanging right there all these years. It's been restored a couple times. But I think when people think of Old Town Clovis, they think of the Gateway to the Sierra sign.
Now, was this the original way that people went into Yosemite, this way?
Well, actually, this was historic Highway 168 that ran through here. Now it's been replaced with a Freeway 168. And this was the access to Shaver Lake and Huntington Lake.
Wow.
And into the foothill area.
And for those purists, they'll notice there's something wrong with the sign.
There is something very unique to the sign. And do you want me to tell you what it is?
Well, you've already told me what it is. Tell everybody else what it is.
There's only one.
See if you can figure it out. Clovis, Gateway to the Sierras.
And there's only one Sierra,
Yeah, the Sierra, or the Sierra. The plural is Sierra, not Sierras.
That's correct.
So somebody a long time ago, and we don't know who they were, made a mistake, and it's been hanging up here over Old Highway 168 for over half a century now.
And everybody loves it. Everyone knows it, and everyone loves it.
Well, this is a first. How many towns do you know of that have a statue like this right in the middle of their old town? What are we looking at here, Mike?
Well, you're looking at Ken Curtis. He played Festus on Gunsmoke. Ken moved to Clovis in 1980, and he made Clovis his home, and he was a vital part of the community. This statue was put here. Actually, it was not put here. It was made in 1992, and it was located across the street. But when that building was renovated, it moved over here.
So Festus has moved.
Festus has moved.
Just like the old train station has moved.
Just like the train station, Festus has moved over here. Festus, actually, he was the Grand Marshal at the rodeo parade in 1991, and the next day he died.
Oh, wow. So he lived and died here in Clovis.
Here in Clovis.
And he's still right here in the parking lot of the Educational Employees Credit Union.
That's correct.
This is uniquely Clovis right here. This adds that little extra touch of originality to your old town. He's smiling too.
He always smiled.
Boy, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I never would have noticed this, but this is fascinating what you've got right here.
Exactly. This building looked like this the whole way down until it was rehabbed.
So it used to have this board, this old wood on the side of it.
Pecky cedar.
When you started tearing it away, You found the original brick down here, the original brick up here, and if and when you take this board down, there'll be original brick back there.
You can actually see it.
So all of these years, a lot of these buildings, their original architectural splendor had just kind of been covered over.
Hidden, yeah, hidden for the rest of the world not to see until it was taken away.
Wow, look at this. This is great. Brick, wood, brick. And it's all the same building. And here's the part right here in the middle that's waiting to be rediscovered. Oh boy, this takes you back. Now we've come inside the old Clovis Hotel, which is one of the oldest buildings in Clovis. And look what we've gotten ourselves into. What have we gotten ourselves into?
Quite a place, quite a very unique place.
Where is this? What is this?
What is this? Well, we're Victoria Rose Cottage. We're fine dining as well as a tea parlor.
A tea parlor. Look, they're pouring tea. Can you pour a little bit more tea for us? Yeah, they're pouring tea right here, the old-fashioned way. Now, they didn't have things like this in old Clovis, did they?
Well, this was a hotel, so they actually took tea in here, and they actually, I'm sure, brewed tea in the room somewhere.
Right.
But
So it's historically correct.
oh, absolutely it is.
And people come here and obviously love this place, and the fact that it's located in Old Town
very befitting.
just kind of adds to the ambiance of the whole place.
It does. It really, really does. People do love this place. This is, it's a hidden charm. It really is. In fact, I should have named it Calgon Cottage because it does take you away. It does.
Oh, Calgon Cottage.
Like a Calgon bubble bath.
She's been drinking too much tea. Ladies, does this really take you back?
It certainly does.
How far back does it take you?
Before I'm born, it lets me leave all the modern amenities outside. I can forget about the cars, and I can forget about my cell phone, and I can forget about all of those modern things that drive us all just nuts.
Yeah.
And come in here and relax.
Just drink tea in a very elegant way.
Oh yes, and visit with friends.
In Old Town Clovis, which in itself kind of takes you back.
Of course it does. My grandfather had a saddle shop here when I was little.
Now here's a lady, you're not from Clovis.
From Fresno.
Why are you here in Clovis today?
I just recently heard about this restaurant and I thought it sounded delightful, and it is, and I'm very glad to be here.
Well, what about the whole area around it?
I really like the area. I frequently come and look in the shops, the antique shops, and you'll find all kinds of interesting things. It's really a neat little town.
Well, it's got kind of an old feel to it,
Yes,
doesn't it?
yes, and I like that. I used to be a docent at the Mukes home in Fresno, which is a Victorian home, and I like Victorian things and would love to have a Victorian house and so on.
Well, you're
So,
as close as you can get to it right now. This is
certainly am, yes. This is just wonderful.
Your name is?
I'm Margaret Barton.
Nice to meet you. And look, here are fellows back here from the city. Fellas, I was expecting a cold beer, and you all brought me somewhere where we're going to get some tea. It's iced tea. All right, let's take a break for lunch before we end up. Time has passed, and what a lunch we had in your restaurant.
Thank you.
What did I have?
Let's see. You had the chicken broccoli crepes.
Oh, boy.
And you had our wonderful homemade potato soup, and you had our pastry encrusted shrimp. And then for dessert, you had a warm chocolate Kahlua pudding cake.
Boy, I gotta tell you, I don't know whether they ate like that in the old days or not, but it's sure good eating today.
Oh, thank you. And I
Thank
know
you.
you loved our vanilla lemonade.
Oh boy, I did like that
secret.
vanilla lemonade. I forgot about that. And ladies, you were at the table next to ours.
We were.
We started talking, and you all are both Clovians. Is that, what do you call people from
Or
Clovis?
Clovisians.
Clovisians. And what was it you were telling me about living here?
Well, I've been here for 26 years, and we didn't have the cobblestone streets and all the beautiful trees that have been planted along downtown Clovis with all the antique shops. It was very bare, and it's beautiful and green now, and very, very quaint and beautiful.
You
we
like
love
coming
it.
down here?
We love it.
Same thing?
Absolutely. It's a wonderful place to call home.
Well, it's a good place to visit, too, and a good place to eat.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are other good restaurants in town, but I think we hit the jackpot. The mother lode for lunch. And now it's time for us to say goodbye, and we're going to say goodbye just right over there. Goodbye, ladies.
Goodbye.
So that's it. What a day we have had here in Old Town Clovis. We're ending up outside the Old Clovis Hotel, the second oldest building in town. And here we are in Old Town Clovis, looking out over this beautiful scene here. And fellas, I didn't realize until the lady mentioned it just a minute ago that all these trees have been planted as part of the redevelopment of downtown Clovis.
Yeah, that's correct. We put in the trees, we put in the street lights, the banner poles, and the brick sidewalks.
So all of this is bringing back the old, authentic look of downtown, Old Town Clovis.
That's right. It's really putting the streetscape back together with the buildings and having it work as a whole.
Well, it works. You got walking tours, you got historic tours, you got a scavenger hunt for the kids who are visiting Clovis to go around and look at the statues and the buildings and identify them and win some prizes and all that sort of thing. You're really encouraging people to come back downtown to Old Town because this place really has a sense of place, doesn't it?
It really is. Well, it's the center of Clovis. This is the heart of Clovis. And we want the whole community to kind of gravitate to this and really own the downtown. This is their downtown.
You know what I have learned from this adventure is that I think a lot of people, and I'm one of them, when we pull into a town, we almost take its look for granted. But so many times the look of these, especially historic old downtowns, is something that is, how do you say it? It's planned. It's supposed to look that way. It was built that way. It's been preserved that way. It's been redeveloped that way. This isn't an accident that Clovis looks like it does today.
No, there's a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of planning, a lot of successes, fortunately, and some failures. But you learn from your failures and you move with your successes.
Well, you've taken advantage of your history, so you've preserved some of the past and you've built a lot of new things here in Clovis. It all blends together and it's all come together to make visiting downtown Old Town Clovis a wonderful experience. This is definitely one of the best, one of the finest of California's communities. Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell Hauser, and I sure hope you enjoyed our visit to Old Town Clovis. It's definitely worth a visit, and if you'd like to go on this adventure again, share it with family or friends, or perhaps donate a copy to your local school or library. It's available on DVD. All you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727, and we'll be glad to send it to you right away.
California's Communities is supported by the California Redevelopment Association Foundation, a statewide organization made up of cities, counties, nonprofits, and private businesses sharing a common goal of bringing renewed life to neighborhoods and downtowns by expanding local businesses, creating jobs, building affordable housing, restoring buildings, and improving public facilities and infrastructure. Redevelopment, building better communities throughout California.